Hi everyone, welcome to another Broken Meeple video. Hopefully the light's not too bad. Maybe it's worth turning the light on at some point, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know, part of me being light, part of me being dark. It's kind of my own persona, really. But yeah, this is what, episode 137, I want to say. I think it's 137. Let me double check my numbers. Yeah, 137. Last one was the UK Games Expo review. This one is basically a bit of good, a bit of a rant. I mean, it's just been a very trying week. In fact, it's been a very trying couple of weeks. You know, it's we in the industry have gone through a few things lately which have certainly grinded us, and this is like me and several other fellow UK creators that we've done. But also, just in general, things have just been very trying. My anxiety and resolve have been pushed to near breaking point. Now, it's getting better, so I am on an uphill trend at this point, but the last week, certainly week and a half, I mean, I've had just about everything or something. I mean, we came back from the expo, which is already quite a stressful weekend to get through, and then finishing that. But then the last couple of weeks of work have been very stressful, not in a bad way, but it's a busy time. So a lot of deadlines, a lot of stuff to get done, and it was just like, oh my god, I got to work for all this stuff. But on top of that, obviously there's the pressure to get reviews done and get other videos done and communicate with people, whether they're actually responding to emails for review copies or not. But also on top of that, there's just been a few personal bits that I've just grated. I mean, some of us, as I say, in the industry have had to put up with some annoying, almost troll behavior lately, some of which we'll touch up upon in the topic of this video, but there's, more besides. And also, I had to put up with a personal problem where my Facebook got hacked and screwed me over like right royally. So I had to basically sort out the security on that and get that revamped. But obviously, that had problems. So a lot of things just culminated together. And when you've got stuff like that happening on top of work stress, it just makes everything absolute worse, like absolute painful. And some people have come out and shown me a bit of support, which is by all means I'm grateful to you. And I don't need everybody to come out and start giving me like the therapy support and stuff. I'm just grateful you're listening and appreciate it. But some of you have lent a few nice words of wisdom and a few pep talks and that, and it has been appreciated. So thank you for that. But if people want to sort of understand what the whole anxiety thing is with me, it manifests for people in different ways. But if I get anxious, and usually it's not a social anxious in a sense, it's more that if something bad happens and it involves me and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, like the unknown, the stuff I can't control, because I am very much not a control freak, but I like to keep on tabs of stuff. I'm organized. I like to know, right, this is going to happen, and because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, or he's going to do that. I like to have some control. When I lose control and have no way of knowing what the ramifications of something can be, it does make me anxious. Now, when it gets really bad, the way it works with me, because it does manifest differently, as I said, is this. I'm trying to think. This central bit of the chest. So you can't really see it too much in the camera. Maybe I can. Can I point this down a little bit? Not easily. All right, there we go. So this central bit of the chest here, which is kind of what I would say to be the central rib cage area. So it's not on the heart, it's not on the organ. It's literally, if you want to take the spine sternum on the rear, it's the front end or whatever. So it is very much a kind of rib cage thing. That bit tightens up like crazy for me, and it just hurts. It is just pain, nothing more. So it tightens up, and it makes it not too much harder to breathe, but it is more painful to breathe. So it's like I can breathe, it's just it hurts too. And what you might end up seeing me doing if I end up in that state is that you might see me kind of sweating a little bit, because I'm like, okay, shit, well, what's going on? Almost like partial towards a panic attack. But also, if you hear me doing heavy breathing, and I'm not smiling or in a good mood or something like that, if you see me doing that, that could be an anxious thing. Because in order to try and alleviate the pain, I'm trying to do breathing exercises, which means doing the whole 4-second in, hold your breath, 4-second out, type thing, and just trying to reduce the stress levels. But it's easier said than done, and usually if something bad happens, I have to basically put up with that for at least several days. It's not constant, really heavy for several days, but it will be heavy, like constant for the first day, maybe day and a half, and then it will mellow out as I put my mind to other things and use stress relief techniques and stuff, and it will just mellow out. Like at this stage, it's there, it's lingering, like I can feel it, but there's been enough stuff happening that's good this week, especially yesterday as I did an all-day board gaming day with our Bognor Regis Club, to relieve the stress levels. So there is some stuff that's helping, but it always lingers. It lingers for a bit until I can truly shut it off. It's usually kind of like a 2-week process, and it's not pleasant. Like, I don't like it when it happens. My old job caused it on several occasions, trying to say, oh, it was a negative meeting we got to have with you on some point, but we'll do it next week. We'll do it in the Monday next week, but we're not going to tell you why, which is like, we need to have a serious chat or something. It's like, great, yeah, tell me that there's something bad about to happen, literally the day before I go to a HandyCon convention. Thanks, work. That's really thoughtful of you, gits. So it's, and that caused me to have the anxious feeling the entire weekend because I don't know what's going on. I have no control over it, and it's negative, so it makes me feel like crap. I really just don't like it. So it's a problem. It's just something I've had all my life, but I'm getting better. Okay, I'm definitely on the uphill trend, on the better end of the uphill trend. So that's that. But I'm certainly going to explain one or two small reasons why it's been like that lately. Quick swig of coffee, hoping my throat can last. If necessary, I'll pause the podcast just to get a drink, but we'll see. But anyway, let's talk about some positives first. Well, positives, some normal stuff anyway. So, channel-wise, 27,635, over an extra 100 subs in the last month. Okay, cool. Keep it climbing, keep it climbing. A few more videos than last time, since the last one, mainly because of the expo. So we've got Earth Animal Kingdom, Beyond the Base Game review. That has happened. Less views than I would have hoped, really. Only 1,500, but I thought more people were really desperate to know about Earth. But the problem is, I think a lot of people explained it ahead of time, and obviously I didn't get a copy until it fulfilled. It wasn't a review copy, so I get it out when I can. But then I did a review for Tembi. So I grabbed it at the expo, and, did that one. That one's doing pretty well, 3 and a bit thousand there, so I quite like how that's tracking, not bad for a relatively standard review. And then I just recently put out Jackpot, where that one has not even got to 1,000 views yet. I'm a little disappointed with that, especially as I did put it on some Facebook groups as well. Although what I seem to be learning lately is that Facebook is a bit of a trash pile and doesn't seem to help you with reach or views or anything like that on your channel in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't seem to make a blind bit of difference. I mean, this was on Board Game Geek where I put like a post saying, what games do you know that don't have a lot of luck and are about hand management and stuff? So asking a question and then mentioning the review bit at the end. And Board Game Geek has like several 100,000 members on it. And this thing can't even get over 1,000 views. So what is the point of Facebook, frankly? But I don't know, we'll get on to that. So yeah, so 3 videos since then. Coming up in the pipeline, Yonder is on my pile to review, so I'm currently giving that one the beans to see what that's like. And there's a couple of other little small ones for, some people. I might do a podcast or a quickie video to explain some of the small card games that I acquired at the expo, some of the titchy ones. I could quickly just run through a quick few of those. Or maybe I'll just save them for the podcast in a couple of weeks. I could just run through a bumper edition of all the small games, so that would be pretty sweet. Although we are going to talk about one of them in a minute. But on top of that, I got like a couple of weird small ones from there. I think, what's it called? Hang on, let me just check. The Great Commission, I believe. Yeah, The Great Commission. It was a small game passed to me. It's a religious themed game, so I don't know how exactly I'm going to be able to approach it, given I'm an atheist, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It could be a fun mechanically card game, so we shall see. But yeah, there's just a few bits, but nothing crazy big coming along. I mean, I've had some more plays of World Order with people who have got copies, but Hegemonic seem to be very hesitant to give me a review copy, I've noticed, and I wonder why. But I could just acquire my own copy soon. It's coming out for retail, I think, at some point later in June, and then I could do a full review at that point. But suffice to say, at least I know people who already have it, so I can play it with them, so that's not too big a deal. But sooner or later, unless I can borrow their copy, I am going to need to do, if I want to put out a review, I'm going to have to get my own copy at some stage. But yeah, that could be on the horizon, but we shall see. And I got a few extra little buy the same token upgrades for Lord of the Rings LCG. I'll show them off at some point, either on Instagram or in a little mini video. And I'm kind of looking forward to that, actually, because it means I can get my Lord of the Rings LCG off my shelf, which I haven't done so for a long, long time. So that really does need to be something. But yeah, that's what's in the pipeline. So thank you everybody who does subscribe to the channel. Thank you everybody who subscribes to the Patreon. You're helping to keep this going in what can only feel like sometimes it's endgame phase. But we'll, we'll see how things go. But thank you very much. Let's talk. Well, yeah, we'll get onto a few bits like that. But I mean, the main thing I notice with the algorithm and stuff like that is that there's definitely a trend in the industry that creators who not only give critical reviews but also I think do bigger content, more detailed stuff is starting to be more problematic. It's starting to die out a bit in favor of what we can only call influencers. When we went to the expo, I swear at the press event, 90% of people who turned up were basically influencers. And by that, I mean people who just post stuff on TikTok and Instagram, like a few photos or maybe a reel to show off a game. And 90% of the people there were that. I mean, for like a few minutes of your time to do a reel or something like that. That sort of stuff is now taking over from content creation on YouTube and things because, publishers want the cheapest method to get their game out there, and they want people who are going to basically sing the praises of their game. So what better way to do it than to literally do the cheapest marketing ever to get influencers to do it, who will say positive things. They won't say negative things about anything on Instagram. When was the last time you saw a negative post on Instagram? And it's cheap, easy, positive advertising. Why, as a publisher, would you not immediately sign up to that kind of stuff? So it's a problem. And I think one interesting little article, I'll see if I can find it while I'm talking, was done by another sort of small creator. Was it We're Not Wizards? The We're Not Wizards podcast. They put out a recent little article or something, which I thought was quite an interesting thing. Here it is. So, Board Game Criticism Time to Let Go by Richard. So this was written a few days ago after the expo. So it's an interesting little piece, and yeah, it kind of does sum up a little bit about what's happening with the board game industry, sort of like creation side of things at the moment. So yeah, interesting. Give it a little read and support small creators while you can. So getting back to the plot, let's talk about a couple of games then. A couple of games that I've played. First up, I want to talk about Sail. So people have advised me to grab Sail because of my trick-taking list, but it's 2-player only. I thought, 2-player only? I can't get this to the table. What am I supposed to do with this? Well, I bought it at the expo along with a bunch of other small games from All Play. I basically raided their small game section for trick takers. So I thought, fine, let's hurry up and get it and let's actually try it. So I have played it. I played it a few times yesterday at the gaming event. Basically, you have a ship at the start. There's a little map and you put little islands and kraken tentacles on it and such. And then you have 3 suits with a bunch of little symbols on them, and you play it like a standard trick taker, except it's co-op. So in each round, each of you is only allowed to win a maximum of 4 tricks before the round ends. There's a little Kraken deck, which is kind of like the enemy thing. This is what gives you lower value cards and is kind of like a lose condition if it runs out of cards. But what you're essentially trying to do is you're trying to move your ship through this little map here by winning tricks with your partner and reach this end tile, which is like this 3-pronged thing over there. And I mean, this is like a slightly deluxified version. Most of the time it's just tokens, and frankly, tokens are perfectly fine. But what you do is that you play trick-taking normal fashion. So play a card, follow suit, etc. But what you're doing is that you're pairing the symbols. So these like cannons and wheels and tentacles and stuff, when you pair them with your partner, they do different effects, like shoot the Kraken to add cards to its deck, move the ship towards you, move it in a straight line, which is quicker, that kind of thing. But of course, it might also cause the Kraken to hurt you. So you can't communicate with your partner, so you have to kind of gauge what it is they're thinking and what they want you to do and try and, like I say, work together to get your ship across. I found it quite a neat little experience. You do have to get into your opponent's head. You get to exchange a card at the start of the round that is paramount. You can certainly give some nice information on that front. The main problem I have with it is that it's a bit too hard. It took us a couple of times just to get through the learning scenario, which is meant to be the easy one. You're supposed to go past these clouds in like a couple of turns, which requires you to move like hell. But then mainly it's the damage from. I mean, it's hard to gauge exactly what your opponent wants to do, so you can't be in perfect sync. The powers of your pirates are very situational, so they barely trigger. And also, when you finish a round, so you run out of tricks and that, the Kraken beats you down based on the number on this little track here. This Kraken only starts with 6 cards in its deck. 3 of them get sent out of the deck at the end of a round. By default. That is not including any cards that came out during the round you just played. So half of its deck is already empty by the time you start round 2. The game could lose after round 5. So and this Kraken can get higher and higher. Like, I don't even know how the Kraken's meant to get higher and higher. I guess it does so more in the later scenarios where you got to go further on the distance. But yeah, if this deck ever gets to only the Kraken card left, you lose. But it chucks out half of its deck at the end of every round, so it just seems really hard to keep this thing topped up. And that's my only real irk with the game, is that the difficulty curve is a little bit high, I think. I think this could have done with being a bit simpler, a little bit easier, or certainly have more ways to tailor the difficulty level. But otherwise, mechanically, I kind of like it. It's a nice little neat 2-player. Interesting style look. I'm not sure I overly go mad for this sort of style, but I don't know, it's different. I don't like the colors they use for the cards, though. But these are horrible. You've got 3 colors for the symbols, which are different from the colors on the cards, which doesn't make any sense. And then it's like your suits are basically blue, green, and a murky green. What was wrong with red? What was wrong with orange? I mean, why change the colors on the numbers? Why not just have blue, green, yellow? Blue, green, orange. I mean, if you just make the suits different types, like you could have one suit as ships and one suit as swords or whatever, you could easily distinguish it for color blindness. But I just think the art style they decided to go with is a bit weird. Yeah, I'm not sure I'd kind of go with it, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a neat little game. I'm going to hang on to it for a little bit, see if I can play it more 2 players at some point. I mean, it's a quick game, so I can quickly teach it and get it played. So, yeah, it's not a bad little game. So I'm glad people recommended that one. That's with the coffee. Okay, now we got to get on to a less popular game, and this is going to highlight well, I say less popular with me, and this is highlighting one of the big problems of Facebook and one of the contributors to my anxiety and resolve breaking this week. I mean, seriously, Facebook, people have a mouth off at Twitter, or X, whatever the hell you want to call it, but Facebook is really becoming a dumpster fire right now, especially the Board Game Geek page. The Board Game Geeks Facebook group is full of absolute trolls. You try to put up any kind of critical view on the Board Game Geek channel, and you will get eviscerated. And this one is the game that has caused the evisceration lately. This is a game that I've only played once, so I haven't done a review, yet people seem to think that the second you post anything on Facebook, it's a review. It's like, seriously. But even then, you cannot say bad things about this game, because the fans of this game, of which apparently there are a few, will rip you to shreds, to the point where I had to turn off commenting because, frankly, I was getting sick and tired of these whiny little man babies coming out of their, like, little, bat caves or whatever. The second somebody, doesn't like a game that they love, to suddenly defend their honor or something. It's like, for crying out loud, if you don't like a game that I like, I don't care. Okay, I'd like to hear your opinion as to why, but you're more than welcome to dislike it. And I mean, if you were to say 10 people out of, let's say, a ratio of 10 people commented on this, 2 might have at least said, I disagree, but here's some reasons, here's things that might improve it for you. So these were good people. I don't know who they were, but if you're one of those 2 people, then great. You know how to communicate on the internet with dignity. The others, though, just troll comments. Just absolute troll comments, and yeah, my Facebook post was, slating the game for not liking it on first impressions. But hey, it's called an opinion, guys. If you can't handle an opinion, then get your ass off the frickin' internet, because you are just a part of this problem. I mean, we're supposed to be trying to make this whole board game community more inclusive, right? And we're trying to make it inclusive on a global scale. We want to make it more inclusive for, different races. We want to make it different, we want to make it more inclusive for the LGBT community. We want to obviously support that. And, it's hard enough to do that in the board game industry without having it nigh on impossible to even just support your average common folk. And, we can't even post stuff online or do anything in the board game world without getting eviscerated just for disliking a game. If we can't even manage that, how the hell are we supposed to make this more inclusive for other people of the world? It's just a complete, it doesn't make any sense. And so this one, like, literally was testing my resolve. I mean, I am definitely getting to the point where my brain is now almost a bit like, I wish I could really do it like Board Game Bollocks does, because he's another fellow creator who tells it how it is and doesn't take crap. Well, I wish I could get to his level, where it doesn't affect me in the slightest. So it does. But at the end of the day, I am getting to that point where I just really just don't care. I'm getting sick and tired of man babies coming out feeling they need to justify their existence because somebody doesn't like something they love. They are that fragile with their egos, with their lives, that they have to basically be like this. And yeah, tell me about it. This is what Facebook is becoming at the moment. But why don't I like this game? This is Veiled Fate. So Veiled Fate from Ivy Studios. So this is Ivy Studio who did that, Moonrakers and Fractured Sky and stuff like that. They're nice enough people, and I like Moonrakers. Moonrakers was a decent game. It was way too long. Length and fiddliness was a problem, and but other than that, fine. What was it? The one where you move through a school and try and dodge people, like an abstract game. It was okay, but nothing special. Fractured Sky was fine. Nothing special, but it was fine. So they've never really put out a banger for me. And there's been one or two games they put out that I haven't even heard of. And apparently they put out something called Tend lately. A flippin' right. Not that really interested in a flippin' right, frankly. But this is what I thought was meant to be a social deduction game. Apparently people call it more of a deduction game. It's got hidden identities. You call it what you will. I mean, okay, I didn't go into it expecting a party game, but still. And the idea is that you basically have this board with a bunch of these miniatures over it, and each one belongs to a different god. You're effectively demigods, or whatever. The theme means nothing at this game. And they're split up into different sections, which again, mean nothing. All that it means is that you've got different places to put a quest card down. The idea is that you are trying to back the god that wins the influence at the end of the day. The influence only goes up to 12, so every point counts. And basically, on your turn, you can do a couple of actions, that's it, which involve moving these guys around the board, from section to section, or onto a card where they go onto a quest slot. The quest slot then has 2 votes on it, Scorpion and Feather, good or bad, whatever you want to call it. And it's almost a bit like the Battlestar Galactica voting system. So when you go onto the quest card, you put a card face down from your hand of Scorpions and Feathers, face down to indicate votes. When the card is filled up, you then reveal all the votes, and then whichever vote side wins resolves all those effects, be it the white or the black. And typically these effects are banish somebody to hell, get a point, lose a point, flip a coin, we'll get on to that in a minute, and various other little bits besides. And that's basically the whole game. Yeah. You're basically meant to try and figure out who's who, and then have the most influence by the end of round 3. That's about it. Yeah, that's the game. That's pretty much all the game has to offer. Okay? Why do I really not like this game? Well, firstly, 60 to 90 minutes according to the main page. Sod off. This is at least 2 hours. This thing is a long game, and it has got a lot of downtime when you've got 6 of you play, because you're waiting forever for something to actually happen that might involve you. And even when it gets to your turn is 2 actions to basically move a piece on the board. That's it. You can do a couple of bonus actions if you happen to have a ton of cards. But those bonus actions, half of them aren't that great. Half of them are really good. But, you only got so many cards. You can't afford to use those powers. And they can be quickly undone by another person. So it's a little bit disconcerting. But there's just some things that really irk me with this one. I mean, as I say, 2 hours, whatever. We also played it in teams. Now, people have told me that, the decent people on the group told me that it's better to play this as individuals. Okay, I could give it a try at some point again to see, all right, I'll play it with individual players. So basically you're not on a team with anybody, you're your own color. We'll see if that improves it. It could do. It does sound better, but if it's got a team mode in it, then if that sucks, don't put a team mode in. You should have known this during playtesting. But this coin, oh god, I hate this stupid coin. This is a 2-hour deduction / social deduction game, whatever you want to call it, right? A hidden motives thing. And most of the time you get points or resolve effects is a coin flip. You might resolve feathers on one side of a card, it gives you a coin flip. One gives you a point, one loses you a point. The swing of points in this is so damn critical that losing a point is a very bad thing. You have next to no time to catch up if your god falls behind. And that happened with my team. And we, by the start of Age 3, we knew we had no chance of winning. So what was the point in even continuing to play the game? And the last team, or teams, that battled for the victory, right, got to the point where it was a tiebreaker. One quest had to resolve, and it was a coin flip. A coin flip decided the game after 2 hours. What moron decided in the design phase that a coin flipping mechanic in a 2-hour game was a good idea? Coin flipping is not a fun mechanic in any game. It's not, unless your game is a 15-minute filler with a ton of luck, fine. But I do not expect to have a 2-hour deduction game with fairly boring mechanics suddenly have most of the stuff decided by a sodding coin flip. That is ridiculous. That is bad design. I'm sorry, that is just bad design. But you know, it just didn't feel interesting enough. I mean, the whole like, oh, your hidden identities now. So in teams, it's 2v2v2. So we had 3 different factions out of what, like 10, 12? I can't remember how many there are. But you know, it was very easy to figure out who was who by halfway through the game. Certainly by the start of Act 3, look, I know who they are and I know who they are. I figured them out. Great. So that whole hidden element is now gone. And they can probably easily figure out who we are. So, yeah, there's no hidden element. Oh, yeah, there's 9. 9 different colors. So there was 3 in play, 6 not doing anything, and we could easily figure out who the other 2 were. That's it. I mean, it's cool that you don't necessarily know who your partner is. That can be a little bit interesting. But, you know, still, you know, you're supposed to make this like a hidden identity game, and it's so easy to figure out the identities because you can't afford to be too crafty and say, oh, well, I'll just help a few weird factions out every now and again, because you don't get time. You don't have enough quests resolved. You don't get enough points to, you know, stay at the back for ages and then get to the front. You can't. You won't get enough points. If somebody gets an early lead, it is very easy for them to stay in the lead. It's very tricky to pull them back. So, you know, that just didn't really work out. And I just got bored. I just found it fundamentally boring. There is no theme in this game. None of these quest cards mean anything. I mean, Flames of the Abyss and Eradicate the Drakes. It doesn't matter. It's literally just a spot and a result. That's it. It doesn't even give you any flavor text. This is one of the most themeless games I have ever played. It doesn't make any effort to have theme. Oh, there's a place called the Abyss. And how do you get your people out of there? Well, you spend an action to move them out into the pools, and then you have to spend another action to get them out into the city, and then probably another action to move them onto a useful spot. So you only get 2 actions a turn, and that is part of your turn, just to get them out of the Abyss. So it's a pain when they're in there. Yes, you get a little reward when you take them out, but still, it's a pain. And is that the most theme you have in the game? The fact that there's an abyss, which is basically hell? I mean, whatever. These spots around the board where the quest cards go, nothing distinguishing them at all. The mountains, the plains, whatever. It's just a random card that appears on them. There's no different theming. There's no differentiation. There's no nothing. It's generic. The game just feels like a generic game, and I do not get why loads of people... I mean, people will sort of go, oh, this is a really popular game or whatever. It's not crazy popular. I mean, it's ranked 1,535. Yes, that's higher than some games, but it's not the most highest rated game ever. But God blimey. I mean, most people have not played this game, but the ones who have are die-hard fanatics of this game, and you cannot say a bad word about this, otherwise they eviscerate you. You know, I've never seen so many man babies before on one game since probably when I did that football manager one, and certainly when I did Nippon Saibutsu, there was definitely a few like that. So it's like, you know, people who can't accept an alternative opinion. But I just did not like this game. I really didn't. I just thought this was a waste of 2 hours plus the teach. And, you know, will it be better if I play it with individual players? Like, say, 4 to 5 players max, not 6, and have individual demigods? Quite possibly. But another factor, most of those, I think 90% of all those sort of trollish ones that came on, right, basically said, it's brilliant. What was it? It's a brilliant game. I love it. I can barely fault it. The expansion makes it amazing. The expansion makes it amazing. Yeah, this game has an expansion. Hadra or something like that. What's it called? Community adventures. Oh god, look at all this typical game found stuff where everything has a listing. It's just a bloody dice or something. Hadria. Yeah, Hadria or something like that. Okay, introducing more strategic variables to the game. And people say that this is like a must-have, like you should always throw this in the game. Then why is it not in the base game? I mean, this was released at the same time the game was released, I think, wasn't it? This was released in 2025, 2022. Okay, my mistake. This came out several years after. Fine. I'll retract that. But so they say, oh, the expansion makes it amazing. But does that mean the base game wasn't amazing beforehand? I mean, it sounds like, from the description I've had of the expansion, that it potentially fixes, a lot of stuff. So why are you praising the game as being amazing when the expansion was the reason it made it amazing for you? It clearly says a lot about the base game being pretty basic and generic. So you can't sort of come out and say, oh, well, you should have played it with the expansion. Well, sorry, the guy who taught us didn't have the expansion. We played your base game. The fundamentals of the game needs to be reasonably solid first before you can justify getting an expansion for the game. So it's, I don't know. I mean, you could maybe convince me to play this again with the expansion and with individual powers. If I've got both of those factors in play, I'll give this another try, okay? Because that is the way people say to play it. Expansion with individual identities, okay? But if you ask me to play this team or without the expansion, I'm going to say no. I hated this. I really did not like this game. I thought this was a waste. I don't hate it as much as stuff like Deep Regrets and things like that, but it's still pretty bad. There was very little in here to keep me entertained. We're talking 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10 at the absolute max, but I reckon 3 out of 10. It's like, especially when the game demands like a 60 quid price tag or whatever it was. It was like a 50, 60 quid he bought it for. And I think that was like not brand new or whatever. So this thing wants a massive price tag for what? A generic looking board with basic artwork, 9 minis that aren't even that great. And that's about it. Yeah, 9 minis of basic colors, a generic board, and some little markers like that. Cards with no artwork. That's 50, 60 quid, is it? Do I need to show you wondrous creatures? I mean, seriously. This game just rubbed me the wrong way. But the amount of people that eviscerated me for disliking it, another one of those tests of the resolve this week. It's the same thing. You find a game that's got a die-hard cult fan base, and you can't possibly say a negative word about it. You just cannot. And I am surprised that this even has a die-hard cult fan base, because I barely even heard of this game. It's Ivy Studio. They don't tend to release stuff on retail. So you either have to get it direct, I suspect, or you wait for a Kickstarter or GameFound. So most people in the world probably don't even have this game, let alone have even tried it. I barely even would consider this part social deduction, part strategy. Part strategy? What strategy? I don't know, but I just did not like this, okay? So, yeah, if you like it, fine. I have no problem with you liking the game, people. You just need to take a leaf out of other people's books and maybe not have such a problem when someone doesn't like your favorite game. Maybe you could just do a silent protest by going out and playing the game yourself. Then everybody wins. We get to have our opinion. You get to play a game you like. Maybe. Duh. Right, okay. It certainly rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, those are 2 games that I have played. One good, one not so good. So, what else do I want to talk about in this episode? Well, this is another one of those resolve things that has been a bit of a pain. Although this has mostly, I think, affected friends I know. Although it has affected me as well. And it's definitely a trend in the industry that I'm seeing, which, we do talk about, how much is it worth doing this, the creation, what do we get out of it? Is there a market for it, that kind of thing? And the more and more since lockdown it has been, the more and more it's getting problematic in that area. Quickie drink. Because I want to talk about this concept of long form versus short form content, right? So all of us, or at least several of us in the UK, certainly myself, Mark Dainty, Paul Grogan, and a couple of others, have been basically hit with a few responses, some choice comments and that, where basically we've had some of our videos like not ripped apart, but we've had people come on with negative feedbacks and stuff, basically complaining that our videos are too long. And Mark Dainty, I think, suffered particularly heavily with this, with his Lands of Evershade videos, particularly his unboxing and his actual review, where people were just coming on, not saying anything about the game. They were just like, I think your video's too long, therefore I hate what you do type thing. I mean, literally might as well as being as bad as that. And I've had that as well. Like, can you put a summary up on your post because not everybody wants to watch a long video or something? It's like, well, sorry, but we take the time to make a video. We don't expect to then have to say, right, okay, we'll just put up the information you need in a paragraph or something and then completely disregard any point of us doing the video in the first place. But there is definitely this debate going around about long form and short form. Like what I mean by that is videos. Sorry, I'm leaning on my thing there. Videos that are longer in length versus the short bite-sized type content. Now, me personally, when I want to absorb content for video creation and stuff like that, I want long form because I need detail. I need you to tell me not only what the game's like, but I need you to tell me that whether you like it or dislike it. I also need to know all the reasons why you like it and dislike it. And I need detail. I need you to tell me about the different aspects of the game, how it makes you feel, how the mechanics work, what's the replay value like, what's it like solo, that kind of thing, right? This stuff takes time to explain. Okay, you cannot do this in a short space of time. And basically, there's a load of these like bite-sized video channels which are like basically overviews. They're not reviews. It's just somebody coming on and going, this is a game. It does this. I liked it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I mean, that's basically the video. It'll be like 2-3 minutes long, and it gets way more views than most other videos out there because a lot of people like to click on those and literally just absorb a quick little snippet before they go off and do their day. Now, I can understand the appeal of that. The idea that you want to absorb a shorter video because you have a busy life or whatever. That's totally fine. But let's get one thing straight. A, that is basically just an overview. It's not a review because you just cannot give the detail out in that time. And secondly, it does not give you the right to go onto people's videos who do longer videos and rip the crap out of them for it. Okay? That is where we draw the line as creators. And it was sickening seeing friends of mine have comments on their videos from people with the attention span of a goldfish demanding that we do like tiny bite-sized videos. No, we choose to do long-form content. And there's people out there who, like me, want long-form content. I tried to do a phase where I could do speed reviews. I had thumbnails of it, speed reviews. And it was basically meant to be a review done in 10 minutes or less. I can't do it. I tried to do it and I kept going over the time. So I gave up the whole idea. There's now just reviews. There's reviews, which are a typical basic format. And then if I need a super long review, then I'll do the whole breakdown of pros, cons, solo, whatever. You've seen the little intermission bit that comes on. That's usually for the longer stuff. So compare like Jackpot 20-something minutes with Lands of Evershade, for example. And that is the format. So I don't bother to say it's a speed review or fast review anymore. But it's like with this podcast. How many times do I come on this podcast saying, it'll be a relatively short episode this week and then it's still an hour and 10 minutes? I'm sorry, it just can't be done. All right. But, what the length of the videos that I've done here. So Jackpot, 27 minutes, probably longer than it would take to normally review Jackpot. But then I also reviewed the mini expansions. So that takes time. I also had to give the disclaimer about why I'm reviewing a game that I've demoed for ages, so that takes time. So that's a longer video. But then Tembi, 26 minutes. Earth Animal Kingdom, short, 13 minutes. But then literally Earth Animal Kingdom basically has one mechanic and that's it. That's all the expansion adds. There's only so much to talk about. But let's go to, let's ignore top 10 lists because they take time. So, even then, 36 minutes for a top 10 list, it's not that bad. Jesus. Foxglove Farm, 16 minutes. Pinata is only 14 minutes. So, they can be relatively short. If 14 minutes is too long a video for you, then seriously, goldfish. But, let's talk about a couple of longer ones. So, Nippon Saibutsu, 43 minutes. That is a big, heavy, detailed Euro game. That needs time to talk about stuff. What's another long one I've done? That's a top 10. Let's see, those are top 10s, top 10. So I mean 24 minutes, 25, yeah, 12. Meadow with the adventure book 34 because I had to go into all 6 modules. So that, in detail. So naturally the Meadow adventure book video took a bit longer. But Lands of Evershade is the one that's really got us in heavy fire here, right? 58 minutes is my Lands of Evershade video, okay? Nearly 10,000 views. Thanks, everyone. But this one is 58 minutes. It's got 10,000 views. Clearly, there's enough people out there who wanted long-form content for this. But mine was an hour long. I'm pretty sure, I can't remember how long Mark's were, but they were fairly lengthy as well. And anything Paul Grogan's done for it is also quite lengthy. But it's Lands of frickin' Evershade. Okay? The idea that we could possibly do, like, 3-minute videos and stuff like that. I mean, if you want to basically have somebody just say, this is a game, it's about area control, I liked it at the end, thank you for my TED Talk or whatever, then 3-minute board games is literally around the corner. Go look at his channel, because that's what he does. A bunch of overviews. Literally just, that is it, that's all it said, and go. To the point where if you call him an overview, he'll blacklist you. Trust me, he's already done it. But, there is content out there if you literally just want validation for your purchase or something, or a really quickie thing. But, there are people who have done like 1-minute overviews and stuff like that, and it's like, that's fine. I think Sarah Shah used to do that kind of content, but it's 1-minute overviews. If you just want an overview of the game, then fine. That is where I think short form content comes in. You don't need 50 minutes to go into an overview of a game, but you do need time to take it apart, find out the pros and cons, and really help people to make a purchasing decision. But there seems to just be people out there that will literally just fling their money at anything as soon as anybody goes, it's good, buy it, as with no other detail. But Lands of Evershade, right? So this is a big campaign game, okay? So you have character creation, you have the variety, you have branching paths, you have 3 different adventures to talk about, and I only did 2 of them yet. I mean, the other one is still waiting for me to start it. You have all the different stuff that came in the Kickstarter with all the little add-ons and stuff. You have the story itself, you have the voice narration app, you have the rule book, you have the components, you have the insert, you have, all this stuff that you need to talk about. You have solo mode, true solo mode versus two-handed. You have the companions. You have all this stuff to talk about, right? And you expect us to do it in a 5 to 10 minute video. No. Just friggin' the hell no. We're not going to do that, all right? You cannot do that. You cannot do that and credibly call it a review. It's too big a game, and this needs detail to talk about it. And thankfully, a bunch of you were appreciative of that. But this is not, I mean, I had a few people on mine sort of do that, but this was more for people like Mark and a few others where, I shuddered. And this was on Facebook a lot as well. This is why Facebook is becoming a dump fire. It really is. To the point where I almost feel like I don't want to put board game content up on Facebook. Other than my main page, going into the Facebook groups, I almost just don't want to do it. I mean, there's a couple that are a bit better. I mean, the solo board gamers one is not bad. Although even that one has its problems. There was a couple I used to post on, but even they have got problems, so I can't find a Facebook group that is without fault, that has no issues. There's either trolls on it, bad admins, or just, very restrictive or bad outreach, whatever. There's just nowhere on Facebook that is easy or good to post board game content anymore. So why the hell is it needed? I don't know. But, the thing I'm getting at is that, long and short form, there's a market for everybody, guys, okay? If you want short form content, there are creators out there who will do that. If you want long form content, there's me and a bunch of other people who will do that. There's something for everybody. So why do you feel that everybody needs to conform to your level? Okay, just because you can't handle more than 5 minutes of video in front of you, just because you were the kid who couldn't sit still in assembly at school, constantly fidgeting before you had to do stuff, then fine, okay? You can find content that will suit you. You don't have the right to eviscerate others for deciding to do it longer. It's just the way it is. And even then, with a short video, you just watch the whole video. There's no reason to break it down. With our long stuff, I mean, I don't know about the others, we'll have to see, but certainly in mine, it's time-stamped. That is the beauty of timestamps, people. You break a video down. So if you don't want to absorb a 45-minute video, you could just literally look on the timestamp and skip to the verdict and watch the last 5 minutes. There's your short form content right there. I'd rather you watch the whole video and got a proper sense of personality and, pros and cons and overview and everything. But if that's all you want to do, then do it. You can just use the timestamp. Why do I need to make the video 5 minutes and somehow squeeze all this information into this tiny little box, making it a worse video as a result because it doesn't give you the detail you need, just because you can't be bothered to click a freaking timestamp? It makes no sense. Angry Joe and like Nostalgia Grid, they do stuff like that with their videos. Angry Joe does long reviews. I love long reviews watching Angry Joe. I always like his review content. And it's timestamps as well. Well, I think, actually, I don't know if he timestamps his own stuff. I think other people tend to come in and do it. But, if I want to just listen to the summary and verdict, I can always skip ahead and look at it. I don't go onto his Facebook page and demand that he puts out 5-minute videos from massive reviews. It doesn't work like that. And I want detail in the content I do. I want to hear your reasonings. I want to hear your pros and cons. And you can't do that in a short little 5-minute or under overview video. Barely even 10 minutes is any time. Even some of the big popular channels are now doing short videos. Dice Down and a few of the others and that. They're all, you can see over time that the length of the videos have constrained down to really short form levels. And it just loses the detail. Like, I just get such a basic idea of this is what it does. I thought this was good. Yeah, I thought it really captured the emotion and the strategic feel and all that lot. Yeah, 9 out of 10. Why did it? Why did it capture that? And are you going to explain about the solo mode? Are you going to explain about this and that and that? No, you don't have time. Well, there. We watch movies that are crazy long at the moment, and granted, there's an argument that some movies need to be cut down. For Christ's sake, Blade Runner 2049 didn't need to be as long as it needed to be. The He-Man movie that came out, I was disappointed by that, but seriously, that was a 2-hour, 20-minute movie. You could lose 40 minutes of that movie with all that stupid crap stuff that happens at the start of the movie, with all the Earth stuff. You could literally cut that out and lose nothing. And it would have been a much more tighter movie or something, Everything from the moment he lands on Earth to the point where, spoiler alert, whatever, to the point where he leaves Earth, the battle sequence that takes place before he leaves Earth. You could cut out everything in between of that and lose nothing in the movie. It really is some of the most cringy stuff I've watched. And that would have shaved off 30 minutes. So there is certainly a case, particularly in the movie industry, where stuff can be shaved. And yes, I can ramble on at times. I can certainly, go off on tangents and stuff. But that's just me talking naturally. I don't script my videos. I have an idea of what chapters and points I'm going to have. But that's it. I don't script what I'm going to say. I just come out naturally and do it. Because A, my personality comes out more as you do that. Because you sound less like an automaton. You actually have a personality at that stage. You have emotion. Are we allowed to emote as gamers? I know we're nerds, but we can emote. It is possible. And, it also allows me to just, enjoy it more because it is more natural. You don't get a true impression of a person until it's natural. It's and a similar analogy happens with photos for me. I hate any photo which I'm in it. Okay, I'll happily take a selfie with you. That's fine. But I hate any photo I'm in. Because any photo where I'm posing for the photo, I look weird. I've got family photos on my wall downstairs, right? It's from pre-wedding, my brother's wedding. And we were all at his place. There's a really nice scenic spot. It's got somewhere like a Greaseboro. And it's got, I forget the name of the hill, something hilltop, I forget. But it's got the hill in the background, a single tree, and you're in the middle of a field. And it's such a nice backdrop. You get the right light in the right weather. It's beautiful. And the 2 photos we got with us, various, like me and the brothers and like some of the family and that, they're beautiful photos. But I look like a complete turd in them. I really do. I look horrible. And I can't stand looking at myself in those photos. Everybody else seems fine. My oldest brother, I'm jealous of him. He's got the gift of the gab. He's got the charisma. And goddamn, you cannot take a bad photo of this guy. It's really aggravating. But The photos of me which I have liked, and certainly the photos that I have kept from other people, are when the person doesn't know they're having their photo taken. As soon as you know it's happening, your personality, your demeanor, your expectations immediately change. But if you're unaware of it, if I'm just talking over here and someone takes the photo and I'm just naturally doing what I'm doing, the photo looks immediately better. And that's similar with the whole idea of not scripting videos. The more natural you feel, the more natural you sound, the better you come out, I think. I just think that's something that works across a lot of different media forms. But so, and I need time for that. I can't do that in a 5-minute video. I would have to rush. I almost joked. There was actually, I made a joke with Markadad that I was so tempted to do a video of if we were close to April Fool's Day, I might have done this. To do a joke re-review of Lands of Evershade. And, it was going to be basically a 2-minute video, like 3 minutes max, probably, no. I think because I wanted to make it very specific, I was going to make it 2 minutes 59 seconds. All right, I was going to deliberately make it exactly 2 minutes 59 seconds, and that would have taken some editing trickery. But the idea is that I was going to redo my Lands of Evershade review, get all the detail that is in that video, and cram it into 2 minutes 59. Right. So the idea is that I would be fast forwarding for a bunch of stuff, saying things like, oh, we got this, we got the, miniatures and that, but we ain't got time. So, oh yeah, character creation is done by this really cool book. It's got lots of words in it, and very nice imagery, but we haven't got time to read that, so I'll just chuck it over there. Just really go at hyperspeed, a bit like if with the fast forward sequence in Spaceballs, it would have even had me talking high pitch at times in order to make up the last 30 seconds or something, and it just would have been like a hilarious parody of this whole short and long form content. I ain't got time right now to mess around with that stuff, but it was just an idea I had, and it did make me giggle. So yeah, it just seems ridiculous, and it's tested our resolves. Poor Paul, poor Mark Monk as well. A lot of UK creators have suffered a bit on this front. I'm sure there's plenty of American and European creators and Australian or whatever, everybody around the world who also can put up with this rubbish now and again. But certainly we've noticed it, and it's just the lack of acceptance here. We're trying to make this industry inclusive for all races, all sexes, all genders and everything, and we can barely even cope with the idea of someone disliking something you like, or whether your video is too long or short. If we can't even conquer those hurdles without issues, then what chance do we have of ever making this hobby inclusive? Ever since lockdown, I think lockdown was just like that. COVID thing was like the worst thing that happened to the world. It screwed over a bunch of people, yeah, sure, and people died and horrific stuff like that. But in terms of the impact it left on the world in all ways, shapes, and forms, the lockdown is the worst thing that happened. Worse than Brexit, worse than various other things that have happened, in a political sense. But yeah, lockdown was the thing that I think killed the world. Everything's just been worse since then. I remember a time before then where things just felt so much better, and since then it's just felt so much worse. It's kind of painful. But the board game industry, it's for creators, it's becoming harder. YouTube's algorithm is basically saying that we need to do longer form content because it doesn't reward you as much for short form content. But the problem is, if we do longer videos, everybody gets on our case about it. So we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. And let's face it, YouTube has already screwed over small creators, anybody like me, and well, yeah, even like creators at my size, but even smaller creators. It's screwed us all over because it basically is like, right, are you using our ads? Are you getting something like about, a couple 100,000 views a week without any trouble? Are you getting millions of views? Good, you're making us money. Therefore, we're going to promote you all over the place and you're on everybody's feeds and that. With us, we put up a video, we have less than 24 hours of life on that video. And I would say it's barely even 12, okay? So, in terms of whether it's put up in people's feeds and search, right? But unless you create like a lightning in the bottle scenario, your video basically doesn't exist after the first 12 to 24 hours. That's what we have to put up with. And it's not like we get a lot of views. People say would you consider doing this full time? I could not. I physically could not survive doing this full time because YouTube doesn't give us enough ability to do that. There is no Kickstarter or Patreon big enough that would allow me to do this full time. So it's just not going to happen unless I win the lottery. That's literally the only way it could happen. And let's face it, if I won the lottery, I'd probably just go traveling. You know, I do want to have a life as well. It's tough. And it has tested our resolve. It's tested our anxiety levels. It's got frustrating, and it is a problem. But, you know, we're getting by. And, you know, things are on the up. You know, I'm improving as well. But, yeah, we have to put up with a lot. And it's just kind of painful that we do for such silly little things like I have an alternative opinion or long versus short videos. If you like short videos, go watch short videos or skip to the end of my videos and watch the verdict. Perfectly fine. But if you like long content, I'm glad you do, and please watch my content. But you don't have to eviscerate the other side for doing it. It's like, you know, go watch the short form bite-sized channel stuff. That's fine. If you want a quick overview of a game, they're good ways to get an overview of the game. There's the market for that. But, yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating. It tires me out doing it. I mean, I am mentally and emotionally exhausted after the last couple of weeks, you know, from work and the whole hacking and all the stuff that happens. It really does take its toll on you health-wise. And we do have to be careful because I'm not getting any younger. You know, I mean, I've been doing this for over a decade, and, you know, the older I get, the harder it is. It's tricky, but it's just something we have to do. And people have been very supportive, and, you know, even just getting a hug or a handshake or just a nice word from people at conventions, it really does make my day. So it is, you know, stuff that is appreciated. But, you know, hopefully a lot of you are just enjoying the content. I hope a lot of you are supporting small creators. I hope a lot of you are watching my buddies, you know, do their content as well. And, you know, they all have a market. I mean, Paul is doing tutorials and playthroughs that I cannot do. And he does good quality ones. So by all means, there's that. Mark Dainty is fully solo and does a lot of that stuff. There's my buddy Asaph with Easy Board Games. You know, he does some tutorial stuff. And Mark Monk is doing a lot more Kickstarter previews and bits and stuff. You know, these are people doing stuff that I can't do. So there's plenty of people filling a niche that I can't fulfill. I'm fulfilling the critical review side of things, and I need to give pros and cons. The Lands of Evershade one, I gave a sequence. There was a sequence there where I talked about how different it was to play with the standees versus the miniatures in terms of deluxe versus standard edition. And I highlighted with the photos how much of a problem it can be in certain scenarios, right? That is a level of detail which people need to know. And I guarantee you, nobody, I mean, well, okay, that's the wrong word. Okay, let me rephrase. I would bet a lot on the idea, the premise, that no other review for Lands of Evershade has gone into the detail of comparing standard versus deluxe to see whether it is functionally easy to play as a result. They might have compared what the component quality is of an artwork standee and the fully sun-blushed, was it sun-scoped, whatever, you know, the really nice-looking miniatures. They might have compared how they look, but I'll bet a lot that they have not done a piece where they compare the functionality of them, okay? I have, and people found that useful. This is the sort of detail that takes time to explain. This is the sort of stuff I wouldn't want to know as a consumer, because if I watched that, I'd be able to think, based on that, maybe I should go a little bit extra and get the miniatures. At least they're easier to use. It is a bit more pricey, but fair enough. You know, or am I willing to put up with that standee thing? Could I find a substitute? You know, there's stuff that allows me to think and consider my buying purchase, especially for something like that, which is a very expensive game. You know, so there's a lot of stuff to process, and, you know, we've struggled to process it. We try to understand, and it is tricky, but, you know, Facebook, particularly YouTube, and just social media in general, it's degrading over time. And the board game industry, sadly, as a result of publisher attitudes, as a you know, result of consumer attitudes, as a result of social media, you know, social classing, that sort of stuff, you know, there's so much stuff that is degrading over time. The board game industry is basically becoming more elitist as we go forth. It's no longer an inclusive thing anymore. It's supremely elitist. And we were on a good trend of making it less elitist as we got towards lockdown. And now we seem to be going back up and becoming more and more elitist. Even just little small things. Like I can go to a board game club night and 2 new people could turn up. They might turn up a bit late. Everybody else is already in their games. And then I see those 2 people playing by themselves. They might be enjoying the games they're playing, but they came to a club. They expected to mingle with a bunch of people. And then only they're playing by themselves because other people can't get out of their games or didn't play a short enough game or didn't help to just to talk to them and make them feel wanted. Last Southampton meetup we did, I was really proud of one guy who we were stuck in a game, I couldn't finish it and stuff like that. But when we finished, the first thing he did was that he waltzed over to 2 new people and brought out some games from the library and played with them and just introduced himself and made them feel welcome. I was proud of him for doing that because that was perfect. That was the sort of stuff I wanted to see, and I actually kind of felt bad that I wasn't the one doing that. But because even I can learn, even I can improve, but even I can be better. It's just the fact that even that is something I don't see often enough is really depressing. It's depressing. And I know I'm sort of going out on a bit of a solemn note there, but that's just kind of what the last 2 weeks have been. They have been for various gaming reasons, for various personal reasons. It's just been a very exhausting fortnight. Now, things are going to get better. Work is mellowing out. It's still busy. The whole hacking thing has been sorted, and, I am aware of what Facebook's like, so I'm fine with that, so I can manage that. And there's good stuff on the horizon. I mean, when I'm done with this and edited it, I'm going to play some Stellaris with friends, then some Valheim later, go to the gym, so there's good fun stuff. And, as we get into July, there's a couple of conventions coming up. There's one in Basingstoke. I forget what it's called. It's not Merrycon, it's something else. Hexcon, something like that. It's a new one in Basingstoke. I've not tried before, so it's like I want to try it. And of course, there's Manacon coming up, so I will be there. But even recently, I mean, went out for a birthday meal with a friend, Casa Brazil, food coma, loved it. We went to see He-Man at I went to see He-Man at the cinema. Disappointed, but fair enough. We did go to see the Digital Circus finale. That was good, so I enjoyed that evening. And we also went to see a Miyazaki concert at Cathedral, and that was nice. Nice evening, relax, could even just close my eyes and just sit in the chair and just be like, this is nice music. I can't remember which bloody film half the songs come from because they didn't give any reminders or any visual representation, which was kind of annoying. But I could just listen to it and be like, this is nice chilled music. I like this. I'm in a good place. There's been some nice stuff happening, but it's been draining, I'll admit. Anyway, I'm going to log off now. My throat is hurting. Get a drink, but hopefully you can get an idea. I mean, if nothing else, you're getting an idea of the sort of stuff we do have to put up with as creators. There's a lot we have to deal with. It is, content creation can be good fun. It is cool to do this. I like giving my opinion and stuff. I like talking about one of my favorite hobbies, but people sort of don't realize that it is also a very draining, very intensive process. If you're doing short form content or just basically an influencer on Instagram, then it certainly doesn't take up that much time. Okay, so you can probably do it without caring. It's like, oh yeah, I just pop on this for about 30 minutes a day and then I can whip this out and get a load of followers and stuff. Great. That would be a dream, really, if I could do that. But nope, the stuff we do, long form, critical reviews, and that takes a lot of time. I mean, for crying out loud, an hour of my day is taken just recording this, let alone the time it takes to edit it and shove it online and stuff. So there's my Sunday early morning. It's 9 o'clock in the morning now, so I got up at 7, right? I started recording this at 10 to 8. It's, this is what it's like. I have to find the time. It takes a lot out of us. A lot of people don't realize it, but some people do, and we're very appreciative of you, okay? All of us creators who get a nice bit of support every now and again from you lot, who appreciate what we do and are just glad to listen to us rave and rant about stuff. Just giving our opinion out there. We're just ordinary people like you. We're not superhumans. We're not, machines or anything. We're just people like you. You know, we just choose to get up in front of a camera and do this stuff, and it's a test. It's a test. You know, we strive to do what we can, we strive to be better, and we strive to, you know, do a good job and give you some entertaining videos to watch, but it's a test, you know, so we'll just see. Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple video. Take care, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and yeah, I've got some shopping to do. Get my car washed. It got it got bird striked basically the other day, so it really does need a wash. But I got some shopping to do. I'm gonna hopefully find time for the gym. Maybe I can make a start on this wretched Lands of Evershade expert cab bags. I really need to do that at some point. But also, I'm just looking forward to playing some Stellaris later and some Valheim with friends, because that's the thing. As testing as this hobby can be sometimes, as testing as content creation can be sometimes, we look forward to small mercies, which is basically the time we can spend with family and friends, and that makes it all worth it. So take care, remember it's only a game, and I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple show. Take care everyone, bye for now.